I would like to welcome our next esteemed speaker, Giridhar Rajkumar. So, Giridhar has over 11 years of experience in the IT industry. Currently, he is based out of London in UK. He has worked with multiple customers in Europe, UK, India, Latin America for the successful transformations in test automation and DevOps. And he is an author, he is a speaker, he's a blogger, he's a podcaster. So again, a similar kind of a persona, similar to Hitesh, what we can say. And today he's going to speak on the topic continuous testing. Here is what you need to know. To know more about Giridhar, I could see on his LinkedIn profile that he is doing too many things at the same time. So interesting profile to look into. I don't know how he is doing those multitasking related things, but then probably you can have a look at his LinkedIn profile and then you can get in touch with him if possible later. So
Excellent. Thank you so much, Patil. And thanks everyone from the 88 team for given this opportunity for me to talk to you guys in this excellent forum. Continuous testing is always, one of the area of interest for me, where I just cultivated myself in giving more getting more knowledge about this particular concept and share this particular concept to many people across different forums. The reason behind that one is it's a baby now, so it's just getting evolved, and it is one of the concept that is being used in the DevOps industry. And it's not a new concept as such, but it is a traditional way of implementation of the testing strategies, but again in a slightly different way. And that is what I just wanted to share with you guys in this forum in this particular in this particular time as well. So my name is Giridhar Rajkumar, and I'm a test automation consultant. So I've been working in this industry over 11 years now. And being a consultant, I have the privilege of going or just exploring across different tools and frameworks that are there as part of the software testing industry as of today, and explore other testing strategies that are available as well. So one such strategy is the continuous testing, which I just wanted to share my personal experiences with this particular concept implementing across different organizations. I know that 30 minutes or 40 minutes will not be sufficient for this particular topic, and it might take probably a year of experience for you to get in get the depth of this particular concept. But I'll try to give you as many information as possible from my side for you guys to get started, at least from the continuous testing perspective. So if you want to follow me, you can just follow me on this particular blog, Learn Dev Desktops, where I just write lots of articles with respective to different tools, and write reviews on different tools and concepts regarding a particular tool. And I have my own website called the testershub.info, where you can just browse almost 200 plus testing tools that are available in the market. And you can be one of them who you can give your feedback on those particular tools as well. And like Patil said, I run a podcast show as well called Testing Paradise, where I interview lots of successful testers like you, and it is available in the anchor.fm website. So if you want to follow me, you can just follow me in my Twitter, VGRK2017, and you can just follow me on my LinkedIn as well, and you can just browse through my GitHub, GRajK88 as well, to see a different kind of code that I have pushed and I have been working on. So having said that, so this is going to be the agenda for next 30 to 35 minutes. I'll just try to reduce it to 30 minutes. So we are going to see what exactly is DevOps. So probably we just wanted the basic to be very strong, right? So we will just quickly see what exactly is DevOps and how QA is going to get inside the DevOps. How a QA engineer, like a test automation engineer like you and me, are going to contribute to the DevOps. And we are going to talk about the main topic for today, the continuous testing. We'll just get introduced to continuous testing. And then we will see how continuous testing is different from what we are doing as part of our regular day-to-day testing activities, right? And then we will see a couple of stages that are involved as part of continuous testing when it comes to a pipeline. Yes, we are going to see a demo on pipeline implementation using Azure DevOps. Initially, I thought I will just do it with Jenkins as well as Azure Azure DevOps because of the constraint, like time constraint. I just have to reduce it only to Azure DevOps. So probably I'll spend 10 minutes on, showing the Azure DevOps pipeline on how you can construct it and how a build pipeline should be looking and how a release pipeline should be looking from the continuous testing perspective. And then finally, we will see what are the benefits and what are all the challenges that we might face while implementing the continuous testing. So these are a couple of, experiences that I have personally seen in my career, and I just wanted to, express it to you folks so that you can be a little bit aware when you're trying to adapt this continuous testing for you. All right. Okay. So having said that, let's put the foundation. So continuous testing is, I wouldn't say that it is completely related to DevOps, but again, many organizations across the globe, right, as of today have started moving towards the DevOps culture. So they started adopting the culture of DevOps, right? So we, as testers, we should also be able to contribute to the DevOps pipeline perspective or the DevOps culture perspective. It is not an independent job that is being done by someone else. It is something that is being done as a collaborative work together, right? So I'm a very big fan of Wikipedia. That's why I just copy pasted the definition of DevOps in this particular slide for you guys. So DevOps is basically a set of practices that combines a software development process and the information technology operations, which is nothing but the ops, which aims to shorten the system development lifecycle and provide continuous delivery with high software quality, which means it is very simple. It is something that is a set of practices that are available in the industry that you can adapt to do a faster delivery of your product in a quality way, actually. Right. So that is what we call it as DevOps. In a sense, everything is automated in DevOps, be it whether it is a build and deployment or a testing, or is it going to be a deployment to another environment? Completely, it is automated, actually. So that is what the DevOps is all about. I think this is much, this is more than enough at this point of time to know what exactly DevOps is all about. But let's try to get in and see how, as a QA, we are going to help DevOps, right? But before that, if you really wanted to know more from the DevOps perspective, I have written a handbook called Say Hello to DevOps. It is available in amazon.co.uk. You can feel free to go and buy it. Or if you want a free version, you can just always connect with me in LinkedIn and you can just ping me over there and I can send you the link to download the free book as well. So having said that, let's get into the QA world of DevOps, right? So as a QA, what is it I need to do, right? So first thing first, what we need to do is from the QA perspective, from the STLC as well, we need to keep up our mind that it is Go automation strategy, right? So try to automate how much ever is possible from your testing perspective. Try not to have more manual test cases at all, right? Have very less manual functional testing in your area and go automation at the maximum, to the maximum, at the maximum pace as well. And then what you have to do is, as a QA, in order to be more precise on the test cases that you're writing, right, it is always better for you to collaborate with developers and business as well. So when I say collaborate with developers and business, I mean, try to adapt the BDD way of work culture in your particular area. So the behavior-driven development, right? So that is one of the catalysts, I would say, if you're working in an agile project, which eventually helps you to speed up your process of developing your quality product and give it to your customers directly. Not only that, it also helps you in getting the faster feedbacks for you as well. Right. So that is something that has to be done by the QA as a collaborative work between the developers and the business. All right. Now, what we need to do is, like I said earlier, that we should go automation most of the time, right? It is always better to invest on more relevant automation tools, right? Say, for example, like Selenium Testing or Selenium Cucumber is a wonderful framework, right? But again, if you want to implement the concept of visual testing, right? So I personally prefer Apply tool. So you can just, so it's a commercial product, but I just have to see whether it is relevant to my work, which I'm doing here, right? So I have to do all those kind of research and then bring in the relevant automation tools that will eventually help you in automating any kind of testing that you're trying to do and reduces the time for you. So basically, as a QA, our topmost priority is in sprint automation, and then try to get the feedback as early as possible, actually. This will eventually be useful for the developers to fix the defects and help them to push the code to the production directly as well, right? So that should be our ultimate goal as a collaborative process with the entire stakeholders of the particular team, right? And then try to implement a continuously integrated testing process, which is nothing but a continuous testing process, which eventually we will be seeing in the upcoming slides, right? Having said that, we will get the basics strong again from the continuous testing perspective. But before we get into continuous testing, let's slightly touch upon what is this continuous test integration is all about actually, right? So continuous integration is nothing but a practice in which when a developer commits the code, it builds on regular basis or it builds on its own and deploys to the environment on its own and runs the tests on its own. So basically, the work what developer has to do is just push the code to the version control tool. That's it. Rest everything right from the building, deploying, running the tests, and deploying it to the next environment should be completely automated actually. So that is what we call it as continuous integration. So triggering of build, right? Triggering of build from the code commit which developer has done is called as continuous integration. And then integrating different set of jobs, right? Like build, deployment, tests, and everything in an integrated fashion is called as continuous integration, right? Now, Giri, continuous integration is wonderful, okay? But what is continuous testing, right? So I was talking to you about running the tests, right? So continuous testing is nothing but the running the tests area actually, right? So if you see the testing phase itself, right, it's a broader concept to discuss about, right? So running the test is not just triggering your Selenium tests alone. No, that's not the one that we are talking about from the continuous testing perspective. Rather, continuous testing is a concept in which you try to execute your test cases in a sequence, which eventually validates your build to its stability in a different test layers. Say, for example, once the build is done and the deployment is done to the server, which is a QA environment, just for example. So what happens ultimately is your tests should start triggering, right? But it's not the direct regression suite that you should be triggering. Rather, it should be in different stages. Those stages we will see in the upcoming slides actually. But before that, how does it differ actually? So continuous testing, you're saying that everything should be automated, right, Giri? I have my own automated test cases and I'm triggering it directly from my local machine. So it is also in continuous testing phase, right? No, that's not the one that we are talking about actually. So basically speaking, this is the traditional way what we do, right? So say, for example, the developer commits the code. During that time, deploys the code to the environment as well. After the deployment, the manual tester will run the smoke test pack manually, right? Just go do monkey testing, go here and there, or do some kind of an exploratory testing or something and says that everything works fine. And then the automation engineer will kickstart the automation regression suite, right? So this is what eventually happening as of today in the traditional way, right? We do automate tests, we do execute our automated tests, but it's not integrated properly actually to our build pipelines as such, right? Or the build process as such. So the moment the deployment is done, there is a manual intervention that is happening, right? Like doing the manual testing from the smoke test and from the automated tests as well. So once this is done, then the developer will push the code to the next environment. And the same process again continues in the next environment as well, which is nothing but the staging environment. So this is something that we really don't want to happen. This is not the way that we wanted testing to happen, because this is a highly, I would say it's not an efficient process as such, but it is a costly process. It is a time-consuming process, right? So that's where the continuous testing comes into place from the DevOps way actually, right? What happens here ultimately is the developer will develop the application code. In parallel, the tester will also develop the automation code. When I say in parallel, it is something like try to make sure that at least take a shift left approach and then make sure your test cases are already done, right? Your test cases are already done and it is well written, and then push your code to the source control as well, right? So once I push it to the source control, ultimately what happens here is there is a CI tool that we will be using. So in our case, for today's demo, we are going to use Azure DevOps, right? Maybe your team will be using Jenkins, or you can use any other tools that you want. But this continuous testing concept remains same for any tools that you use from the build perspective. But here we are using Azure DevOps. So what happens is, the moment I or the developer pushes their code to the source control, ultimately the CI tool will automatically trigger the pipeline. So when the pipeline is triggered, it executes all our test cases, which we have configured for APIs, which we have configured for smoke tests, which we might have configured for sanity and the regression tests. So all these kind of tests will be triggered automatically directly from the CI tool itself, actually. So there is no manual intervention that is happening here, right? Ultimately, this particular process is completely automated, and the tests gets executed much faster if you start using the principles of parallelism, right? Or Selenium grid concept as well. So try to use that kind of concepts to optimize your Selenium test cases so that it executes in parallel and reduces the execution time as well, right? So once this is done, it just tells to the CI tool saying that, hey, I have executed all the tests and everything looks proper to me. Ultimately, this is where the continuous deployment concept comes into place, actually. So once your test cases are done in your one environment, say, for example, QA environment, then the next environment is our staging, where your code will be promoted automatically without any manual intervention. So basically, many organizations have started adopting this particular way of work culture to make sure that their product is reaching the production, at least the staging point, without any hassle and in very less time, actually, right? In case, Giri, in case if there is a failure, what happens, right? So in case if there is a failure, ultimately, the test cases will be ultimately, the test failures will be sent to the developers, and the developers has to fix those bugs. And again, the process starts from the beginning from the QA perspective. So the beauty here is you don't have to do any deployment by manual way at all. It's a one-time effort. Do everything in one shot, make all the jobs ready, and then everything is automatic in your particular continuous testing phase or in your pipeline perspective. Now, how to achieve this continuous testing in a more, with more return of investment, right? So I would say, see, this is something that I have personally experienced with the test automation pyramid. But again, there are many people who think that test automation pyramid is not very useful for them, but literally it is useful to many of us, actually. So what I wanted to tell is, try to have many unit test cases and API test cases, right? To check all your business logics and everything. Try to have more unit test cases from the code level and more API test cases to make sure that the service integration layer is working much faster and much reliable as well. And try to have very less UI test cases, guys, because UI test cases are very, very expensive, right? When I say expensive, it is expensive from the cost perspective, and it is expensive from the execution time perspective as well. And if you want to execute it across different, tools or different browsers or different versions of browsers, you might need to go for a third-party cloud-based, platform where you have multiple browsers and other things, which is again money-oriented, right? So try to reduce as much as possible from the UI perspective, rather focus from the API and the unit test perspective, where you will be able to get all your business logics validated within no time, right? So this is something that I personally follow, and it has given very good return of investment, at least from the quality of the product perspective, in fact, and from the feedback perspective as well to the developers, right? And then let's talk about the stages of continuous testing. So basically speaking, what happens here is it's about executing your test cases in a sequence, like API tests, your smoke tests, your sanity tests, and your regression tests, basically, right? And so what you're seeing is from the Jenkins perspective. What I have done here is I have configured such a way that I must have 100% of my smoke tests to execute, right? I want all my smoke tests to execute, and I want all my sanity tests, if I have configured, it has to execute all. But again, if the pass percentage is 90%, it is okay. It's okay for me to promote, it's okay for me to execute my regression cases. So when I'm executing the regression cases, I want to make sure that at least 80% pass percentage should be there actually. Then only I will be pushing this code to the next one. But in an ideal scenario, it should be 100%. But again, it depends on the project where you're working and what is the threshold that you want to set as well. So I have set it as 80% for now. So if 80% of my regression cases are passed, then I will promote that code to the next environment, right? So this is something that you really wanted to focus from the staging perspective, which we will be seeing in the Azure pipeline as well, right? I will come to this best practices later. Let's get into the demo of Azure DevOps, so you will be able to understand more from what is that I'm trying to talk here, right? So the code base, what I'm going to use is being built with Selenium, Java, and Maven. So I have pushed it to my Git repo over here called Selenium TestNG Azure DevOps. So you can just browse it through. So I'm going to use this particular GitHub repo integrated to my Azure DevOps. So Azure DevOps as such, if you see, it has the feature of having, giving you repos as well. But again, I just used GitHub to show you the integration is possible through third-party version control tools as well. But if you want to use Azure's repository as well, that is fine. It is absolutely good. No worries at all. Now, this is the Azure for a project which I wanted to demo you guys. So I use a Zero Web Security website, which is again a website that is being developed by Micro Focus, if I'm right. I'm going to use that website to do my, a demo for this particular forum. It has nothing to do with Zero Web Security pipeline at all. It is just for a demo purpose. So having said that, so this is the place where I have reposited all my code. And in Azure, what I wanted to do here is I need to create pipelines, guys. Okay. So continuous testing, if you see, it's a huge concept, right? So one thing what I wanted you guys to do religiously is to run your test cases on daily basis, right? Probably if your day is going to start at 9 o'clock, try to start executing your test cases around 7ish, right? And try to get the results at 9 o'clock so that during your scrum call or something, you can just go and talk about what is the failure and you will get an idea of what is it you need to do for that particular day as well, right? So that is something that we have to follow religiously to execute the test cases on daily basis at that particular time to make sure the build which has been deployed last evening is still working for you, right? So that is where the concept of build pipeline in Azure comes into place, right? So in Azure DevOps, there are two pipelines that you can have. One is build pipeline and the other one is release pipeline, right? We will come to the release pipeline later. Rather, I will just show you for now, I'll just show you the build pipeline as such for now. Now, from the build pipeline perspective, it is completely a separate entity. So this entity can be directly related to your smoke test, or you can create a separate job for your regression test separately, or your sanity test. You can do it however you want actually, right? But for now, what I have done is I have created this build pipeline for API tests. So basically speaking, it is very easy for us to create a pipeline. All you need to do is go click on this new pipeline, and you will be given an option to select your repo and other things over here, which is quite straightforward actually. I will directly show you the configuration which I have done for my build pipeline. So, all right. So what I have done here is, since it is a Maven project, right? Okay, fine. So let me talk about the agent here actually. So the agent, what I have created here is directly inherit from the pipeline itself. So I don't want to create any external agent. So I'm going to use the agent that is available as part of the Azure DevOps itself. So agents are nothing but your slave machine, guys. So if you're familiar with Jenkins, right, you call it as slave machines, right? So agents are nothing but the slave machines in Azure DevOps. The beauty is Azure DevOps itself has slaves that has been configured for you. So you can directly select where you wanted to execute your test cases, be it whether it is a whatever machine it is, right? So if you want to execute it from Mac machine or Ubuntu or Windows, whatever it is, you can just select it over here directly, and then you can start executing it on your own. So you don't have to worry about bringing up an instance, or you need to create a service account, or no, those kind of issues are not there with this particular Azure DevOps, which I personally believe that it's a great feature that is available. And then you have to create a Maven task actually. So just like how we create in Jenkins, we have to create a Maven task where you will be giving a goal on what is that you want to execute. And here from it is a best practice for you to give from 3 parameters perspective. One is from the browser perspective. You have to tell which browser you want to execute. Just in case if you have different browsers to be covered, right? You can just give it like this. And you can just tell what kind of test you want to run, like API test, or is it a smoke test or a regression test, whatever it is, you just have to give the group name over here and the environment as well. So I personally prefer the groups and environment are very, very important here, because you can reuse this particular job across different environments as well to make sure your test cases are executing, right? I know most of the frameworks, what you will be developing will be environment independent, which means that it is environment agnostic, where you can just try to execute the same set of tests against different environments. So if you are a person who's having a framework like that, then this is the best approach that you can have it, by giving all the environment and other stuffs over here directly. Right, and all these things will be created automatically, like copy files and the publish artifact will be generated automatically, which we don't want to worry about. But publish HTML report is something that I really wanted to tell you guys. So many of us, we really like extend report and we use extend reports, right? So I have given an option here to publish my extend report results as well over in the Azure DevOps job itself, where you will be given a link where you can just go and quickly see the test results from the extend report. But again, from the Azure DevOps perspective, it has its own test results report as well, where you can just go and see. It has, if you ask me personally, that is more than enough actually, because it has the information exactly what we wanted as SDEX, and it has information what a business person needs as well. So we don't have to worry about it. We will just see that once we execute the test cases for sure, right? Yeah, considering the time, I will just quickly go to the demo, which I wanted to show you guys of executing the test case. So what I'm going to do now here is I have recorded the session, because if I execute it now, practically it takes almost 18 minutes to execute all the test cases for you. But I have just recorded the session, this particular execution alone, and I'm speeding up just for the time constraint perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change a small, comment in the code, and I'm just pushing directly to my GitHub, right? So once I push it, ultimately what happens is in my Azure DevOps, a release pipeline will be automatically configured. This is the place where I was talking about continuous integration, right? So this is what exactly happens in the continuous integration. The moment I push my changes, or the developers push their changes directly to the GitHub, the release pipeline will automatically get triggered, right? So if you see here, these are the stages that I have in my pipeline, like QA build, QA deployment, QA API tests, QA UI smoke tests, QA UI regression tests, deployment to the staging, and so on and so forth, right? So if you see here, all these green color ticks which you are able to see are the ones that has been completed for now without any errors. Good news with pipeline is if there is an error that is happening, say for example, if your one test fails, right, it stops there. It never proceeds with the next job at all, right? So in that way, you will come to know that, okay, you will get a faster feedback saying that, okay, there is a problem in the test or in the build directly, where the developers and the testers can look into and fix that issue as soon as possible, right? So this particular process will happen at least, say, for example, if your team is working on Agile, right? This particular activity can happen probably 10 times a day, actually. Your developers can push the code 10 times a day, right? So all these kind of integration will eventually help us in getting the feedback much faster, rather waiting for the deployment to happen and do the smoke test manually, do the sanity test manually, and then trigger our automation test manually as well. So this is something that this particular pipeline is very, very useful for. If you see here, all the QA tasks are done. All the QA related build, deployment, API tests, smoke tests, and the regression test is currently happening. Once this is done, once this is done, then the staging related deployment and the test activities will start actually. So I'll just quickly fast forward it for the benefit of time. Yeah. So if you see here, all the activities are done and you will be able to see all our green color. If something is failing in some stage, it just mark it as red, and it will tell you that something is wrong. Just try to fix everything and then reinitiate the release pipeline again. Right. So this is one of the major good feature about Azure DevOps, which I personally, get attracted towards. And this is something that I wanted, to implement in, many projects as well, which has been successfully implemented. And we have got a very good return of investment from the continuous testing perspective. So what you want to do is from the continuous testing perspective, make sure you have all these artifacts separately, like API tests, unit tests, and regression tests. Of course, there will be a unit test that is coming over here. But again, I just missed it over here. But again, UI smoke tests and UI regression tests are also there. So this particular area is what we call it as continuous testing, which eventually executes batch by batch to give the feedback to your developers and the testers, right? And then we will get into the advanced DevOps pipeline perspective in Jenkins, which I will just share you guys the slides so that you can just look into this, because it's a huge concept. We're using Docker and Jenkins to execute the test cases using containers, which means your entire environment itself is within a container. And it is disposable itself. So which means your environment itself will be disposable after the test execution, right? So that kind of an approach has also been followed in many organizations currently. So this is a well advanced DevOps pipeline, which you can definitely try it out. I have an article that I have written about this as well. You can feel free to browse that particular article in my blog. Which you will be able to get more insight about this disposable DevOps Docker architecture as well. And from the benefits perspective, like I said earlier, it gives your feedback much faster, right? So it is something that, it is being used by many organizations to reach their product to the customers in a much faster way and in a more confidence way as well. See, this confidence will evolve only from the tester's perspective, because we as testers, we should make sure that our test cases are highly reliable. Right. So we should have that confidence. How are we going to get that confidence? You remember I was telling about the daily execution. So that is when we will get the confidence on our builds, actually, on our test cases, in fact. So running very frequently, running the test cases very frequently will eventually make you to get the confidence that your test cases are worth to run in the release pipeline as well. Right. And then it eventually speeds up your delivery process up to 80% actually, especially from the testing process itself, right? It increases your efficiency to 80% if you do this continuous testing process. And then, of course, like I said earlier, it helps you to do the defect tracing much faster and much easier as well, right? Now, let's talk about the challenges a little bit, right? I'll just take 2 minutes and then we'll just get into the question and answers. All right. So from the challenge, So from the challenges perspective, what happens is, you should have technically skilled testers for sure, guys. You cannot, put a functional tester over there and ask him to do all these kind of things on his own. The thing is, make sure the person who's there in that particular project is a SDET, so that he will get the interest on the DevOps as well, which will eventually help in putting lots of efforts towards continuous testing, right? And then the person should be knowing multiple technologies and tools automation as well. Like I said earlier, when you're selecting the effective tool to you should make sure that, if you think about visual testing, or if you think about accessibility testing directly integrating into your framework, you should have that mindset. See, gone those days saying that I'm a web automation engineer or API automation engineer. Those days are gone. We are SDETs now, right? SDETs is the culture that we follow. We need to know many things, right? So cultivate that habit and make sure that kind of a person is there in your project as well, right? And make sure that continuous testing is effective, but it will not be much effective if you have a system that is very, very complex, like integrating it with a different set of systems that are involved, right? Continuous testing might not be a good option for you guys over there, but try to think how you can leverage this continuous testing. If it is not possible, then leave it and try to do the alternate traditional way itself, right? And one more thing is, when we are trying to do this, there is many challenges that you might face from the test data generation perspective, right? So this is one problem that I have faced. So the test data generation should also be highly dynamic. Try to make use of functions that are available within Java itself, or import a library that supports a test data generation, or so on and so forth, to make things much faster for you, right? And sometimes external dependencies can also slow down your execution. So say, for example, like if you want to execute it across different browsers, right, you might be having a cloud platform which is giving you a service. So what if there is a network latency? What if the server is down at the other end? So all these kind of issues will come. So make sure that you have you will face these kind of challenges, and try to be more proactive in addressing these issues much faster itself, right? All right, just to have a quick recap, we just saw what is a DevOps, and we saw how QA is going to help DevOps, and we saw what is continuous integration and continuous testing and how to achieve continuous testing. We also saw a demo with Azure DevOps as well. And we have seen a couple of best practices from the benefits, from the benefits and challenges as well. And we have seen the different stages that we need to adopt in order to make sure that the feedback is given to you much earlier for effective delivery of your product. So with that, I really thank everyone for your patience and hearing me out on this particular session, and open to questions now.
Thank you so much, Giridhar. I could say that this is something which we need to know about continuous testing from your session. And yeah, we do have a few questions for you. The first one is, where are the test cases? I think someone is asking about the test scripts, where these test scripts are stored in somewhere like a test management tool. I think you are storing it in
Yes,
GitHub.
GitHub
Yeah.
actually.
GitHub,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you can use GitHub, or you can also use Azure DevOps inbuilt repos as well.
Repos.
Uh,
Yeah.
see, Azure DevOps is most of the features are free, guys, to try. Even I'm using the free one, so I think it's 1,800 minutes free every month. So you can just go and do a hands-on as well. So this is a really interesting one, which you can definitely get in, get used to it.
Okay. And the next one is, can you please compare Azure DevOps versus Jenkins from the usability point of view?
Oh my God, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
See, I have used both actually. To be very honest, I have used Jenkins as well as used Azure DevOps. But personally, I suggest Azure DevOps actually, because the integration is seamless, right? So the thing is, like, being in this industry, right? We need to make sure that things are much faster and everything is in one place, right? So if you take Jenkins, the thing is, I need to integrate it with Bitbucket. I need to integrate it with some other tools, so on and so forth, for the repos perspective. So ultimately, what happens is, if my Bitbucket is down, right? If I've experienced this, that's the reason why I prefer Azure. This is one of the instances that I have experienced. So when we wanted to do a deployment, unfortunately, the Bitbucket was down actually. Right, so we had to wait for few minutes to bring up that particular Bitbucket server, and then pull the code from there and execute it. Whereas if you take Azure DevOps itself, it is an integrated package altogether, right? So you can put all your code into the Azure DevOps repos itself, and then you can do it. So this is one of the simple instances. But from the usability perspective, I would suggest Azure DevOps is much easier, because everything is UI based. Of course, there is a YAML based configuration that you can do as well. But again, for testers and for testers, especially from the CI/CD perspective or the continuous testing perspective, Azure DevOps is much better. Patel. Yeah.
Thank you, Giridhar.
Sure.
And
No worries. Thank you. Thank you so
yeah,
much.